Hey there, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the Biohack Your Life 10 Napkin Presentations Workbook. Look, if you've ever felt like your daily grind leaves you with maybe, 1 or 2 hours a day to do what you actually love, and honestly, probably not enough money to even do it, well, you're in the right place. We're going to map out a really clear, structured journey to escaping that 9 to 5 by building a lifestyle team, all without sacrificing your precious free time. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the truth about network marketing, move on to the math of multiplication, map out your roadmap to growth, talk about mentoring the right ships, look at sustaining your team's fire, and finally finish up with owning your life. Let's get right into it. Section 1, the truth about network marketing, debunking the pyramid myth. Right out of the gate, the workbook hits us with this fantastic quote from Jan Ryu. Network marketing is not a job, it's a way of life. That's absolutely crucial to understand. The end goal here isn't to just swap one boss for another, right? It's about building a system where you actually get the time, the health, and the financial freedom to truly own your days. It's a total paradigm shift. And here is where we tackle the elephant in the room. The workbook draws a really clear line between a traditional corporate pyramid scheme and a genuine MLM. Think about a traditional corporate hierarchy. It's very top-down. Only the few people who got in at the absolute beginning sit at the apex and make the real profit. But a true MLM structure, it's an inverted, bottom-up leverage model. Everyone starts at the exact same point at the bottom, and everyone has the exact same massive potential to build upward as large as they want. Section 2, the math of multiplication, the power of one more. Now, the engine of all this growth, it relies entirely on multiplication, not just simple addition. Let's think about the math for a second. If you sponsor just 2 people who sponsor 2 and so on, your group sits at 16. But watch what happens when you sponsor just a few more serious people. If you bump that up from 2 to 5, 5 who sponsor 5 who sponsor 5, suddenly your organizational depth mathematically scales to an incredible 780 people. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill. Let's zoom in on the gap between sponsoring 2 people and sponsoring 3. The total leaps from 16 to 81. So the big takeaway here is that the massive net difference of 65 people comes entirely from everyone simply sponsoring just one extra person? No way, right? But that is literally the power of exponential growth according to the math in our source. But here's a really surprising fact from the source material. Elite salespeople actually often fail in this system. Why? Well, because they tend to just sell products instead of teaching duplication. Think about it. If you sponsor Tom, but you don't teach Tom how to sponsor Carol, the whole system breaks the minute you step away to take a breath. True duplication only happens when you teach your recruit how to sponsor others, going at least 3 levels deep. You have to teach them how to teach. Section 3, your roadmap to growth, the 4 things you have to do. So, practically speaking, how do we actually get from a dreary 9 to 5 to true independence? The source uses this great analogy of a road trip from rainy Washington to sunny California, and it lays out 4 rules of the road. First, get your key in the ignition by registering. Second, fuel up by consistently consuming your own products on auto-ship. Third, shift into high gear by sponsoring serious people, moving from first gear all the way up to 4th. And finally, number 4, just naturally share the retail value with friends along the way. And while you're shifting gears, I want you to think of your business like constructing a massive high-rise building. You can't just scrape the topsoil by being a salesperson who is 130 people wide. That's a shallow foundation. You've got to dig deeply past that soft zone. You start with a shovel for level 1, bring in the heavy machinery for level 2, and keep digging until you hit unshakable solid bedrock at the 3rd and 4th generations. That is when your business truly shoots up into the sky. Section 4, mentoring the right ships, focusing your energy. As your network starts to grow and you're digging deep, the workbook uses this fantastic analogy of ships arriving at a harbor. You're going to encounter 3 types of ships. Empty ships, they're negative and constantly need convincing. Silver ships are new members who have potential, but they really need mentorship. And gold ships, those are your serious, active learners who are building depth. So, what's your absolute primary goal? You have to focus all your time on helping those gold ships unload their cargo. Okay, but how do you actually find these gold ships without facing crippling face-to-face rejection?
The workbook offers a brilliant tactic, the third-party invitation. Instead of asking a prospect directly, which, let's face it, usually makes people defensive, you ask if they happen to know someone else who might be interested in some extra income. It creates this safe, low-pressure zone, and a lot of the time, they'll actually volunteer themselves.
Now, once you launch enough ships and secure your 5 Series Gold ones, your daily routine has to fundamentally change. There is a massive shift in time investment that has to happen. In the early stages, you're spending 100% of your time sponsoring new lines. But later on, you need to drastically flip your schedule. You should be spending 95% of your time mentoring those gold ships to dig deep and only 5% finding new lines. It's a total game changer.
Section 5. Sustaining your team's fire, motivation, and attitude.
To keep those gold ships moving and building depth, we really have to look at what fuels long-term focus. The workbook contrasts 2 types of motivation. First, you have hot bath motivation. This is downward and external. Think of pep rallies or seminars. It feels amazing in the moment, but it cools down quickly. Then you have constant heat motivation. This is permanent and internal. It's created upwardly. When you help a downline partner sponsor someone new, you literally put a fire under them, bringing their attitude thermometer to a boiling 212 degrees. Think of your team's energy kind of like a campfire. A single log on its own, it does absolutely nothing. Put 2 logs together, you get a tiny flame. 3 logs build a nice fire. But if you bring 4 or more team members together, you create a blazing, self-sustaining bonfire. The workbook actually calls this gathering a sizzle session. It's a really smart strategy where you bring prospects together with your upline or team members. The collective energy, that sizzle, does the heavy lifting of selling for you. It is the perfect way to motivate those skeptical, negative, wet log prospects who might be on the fence. Section 6, Owning Your Life, the Final Destination. All right, let's tie all these concepts together. The workbook provides this blueprint called the geometric pentagon. It shows that if you strictly focus on finding and training just 5 serious people to duplicate your efforts, your organization can mathematically explode. By mapping this out in 2-month increments, your core group can scale into thousands of self-sufficient members in just 10 to 12 months. That is huge. But to sustain that incredible momentum, you've got to stop trying to sell to the entire world all by yourself. Instead, focus on these essential daily habits. Find your core 5, teach them true duplication, dig down to that 3rd and 4th level bedrock, fuel that constant up motivation heat, and heavily shift your time toward mentoring your gold ships. So keeping this entire roadmap in mind, the final provocative question the source leaves us with is this. Looking at everything we've discovered, what is the single biggest shift you need to make in your daily routine today to achieve true duplication and finally own your life? Seriously, take a second and think about it. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.